Hi there, welcome to the first episode of my 10-minute moan of today. And the topic of this 10-minute moan is the story about the SNP government blowing the Grenfell Tower money given to Scotland to repair similar buildings here. And they've spent it, not on the buildings. Now, the story came out a couple of days ago now. To be fair, I've been a bit busy. I was at the George Square pro-UK rally on Saturday and been a wee bit busy since. Fighting fires, the latest being an accusation that some guy with his face covered and his hood up was doing a Nazi salute was indeed me. And despite the fact that somebody had, there was a photograph of me 20 yards away, by the way, at the same time, with a blue shirt similar to this with a different logo, and looking at my camera phone. And it was funny because the actual clear picture, the unblurred picture, came out a few hours later, and the guy's got a tattoo in his hand, which will say, I don't have one, and I've no laser marks there. However, that's the sort of nonsense I'll need to put up with, and I'll be quite happy to accept it. And it'll get louder and it'll get more ridiculous as time goes on, because on Saturday I repeated what I've said often, that I will be standing as a candidate for the Holyrood elections, and between now and then I'll be upping the volume every month or two. So I'm quite prepared for more of this nonsense going forward. It's predictable, and I accept that, and I will carry on regardless. So, good try, but won't stop me. Anyway, this story about the SNP, what they've done with the money, covered loads of places, and I'd done a video on this a month or two ago and was told I was lying. So I'll put a copy to the link, the video that I'd done in the corner towards the end of this video, with stuff that I was saying months ago about the Grenfell money, and was told I was lying. So the story I'm using for reference is Daily Record. They put it out in the paper on 2 days ago. Hannah Roger, there you go, a bit weird, Sunday Mail's chief reporter. The headline they went with: Grenfell cladding money mostly spent on other things, Scottish Government admits. The Scottish Government also said it's no idea how many buildings have dodgy panels after a scathing report into the 2017 tragedy, which claimed dozens of lives. Now, let me remind you, this is a 2017 tragedy. We are 7 years after this. And the Scottish Government still don't know how many buildings in Scotland have got similar panels. But they're a care and bob this, unless you're in a high-rise building where they apparently don't care. The Scottish Government has admitted that most of the £97 million pot of cash given to it by Westminster to fix unsafe cladding after the Grenfell disaster has been spent on other things. And 7 years after the tragedy in London, which claimed 72 lives, ministers still don't know how many buildings are affected in Scotland. Ministers set up a cladding remediation programme following the disaster and identified 107 buildings across Scotland that required work to make them safe. The 2021-22 budget in the United Kingdom handed Holyrood £97 million for cladding remediation as Barnett consequentials, a share of the amount it will spend in England. Now, for those who don't understand the Barnett formula or want to tell lies about it, which is probably half the people that are still voting SNP, when the British government spend anything in other areas in government over and above normal budgets like this, like where there was a need to create money to help replace the cladding on buildings that had the same as Grenfell, they work in a factor which is basically proportionate to the amount of people that live in Scotland, and we get given additional monies over and above the money that you would normally expect. So we get 97 million quid, which was direct relation to what the UK government gave to the rest of the nation. Of that, £9 million has been spent on removing and assessing unsafe cladding, including £2 million paid to security guards in dangerous sites. With homes already identified, one building has been completed and work has started in just 5 more. And that one building's in Aberdeen, which is in the video I've done before, and I'll put a link at the end of this video. It comes after damning final report into Grenfell fire was published last week, highlighting the greed and complacency of authorities who ignored tenants' concerns about safety in high-rise blocks. admitting the whole cash pot is now gone. The Scottish Government insisted it will still pay to fix the cladding in buildings identified with cost dependent on future assessments. Yeah, I'll bet you will. A spokesman said Barnett consequentials form part of the Scottish budget for the year in which they're received. In this sense, there's not a pot of money waiting to be spent. Well, there is if you don't want to budget properly. Ministers have said that they will spend the equivalent value of those consequentials in cladding remediation at the time it's appropriate to spend. So basically what they've done, they've got 97 million in 2022. They spent, I think, they add it up, it's about 7 million. So there's 90 million pounds that they got in 2022. And what they're saying is that that money was to be spent in the year which it was received. So they've blew it on something else and not really worried about the future. Right, because they're now claiming, well, we'll still spend that money on cladding. This is 7 years down the line, okay? But we'll just take it out of other budgets at the time, robbing Peter to pay Paul, which is what the SNP have done for 17 years, unless you've not been watching, okay? So they basically got an extra 100 million quid into the budget in 2022 and used it in other stuff, which we don't know, but just been, to crank up their deficit, no doubt. In Wales, 37 buildings have been completed and the work has started in 86 more, while in England, 1,350 have been completed and work is underway in another 949. Let me just remind you the figures in Scotland. We've finished one, we've got another 5 outstanding. There you go. And they don't know how many. We identified 107. So that means there's at least over 100. And I'm not sure if the 107 figure was right. The rest of the UK is kind of getting on with the job. We asked officials here how many buildings are affected. Scottish Government spokesperson said there are potentially a much larger number of buildings in Scotland affected by cladding. We are continuing to take steps to improve our understanding of the number and nature of these buildings. Ministers were urged to get a grip by opposition politicians. Which beggars belief, doesn't it? They actually don't care. Scottish Labour's Mark Griffin said it's utterly appalling that the SNP is dragging its heels on removing cladding. Miles Briggs, the Scottish Tory housing spokesperson, said ministers must come clean on why they are clueless about the number of buildings that have this dangerous material and why the money has run out. Well, they've told us, just spent it on other things in that financial year. They care not. They would have been rubbing their hands. And at the same time, here's the irony. So in 2022, they've took this 100 million quid for all intents and purposes and blew it on something else, right? And all through that year, we'd be blaming Westminster for the lack of money we get. Yet they've just blew that money that they did get, not for purpose. And now we've got over 100 buildings in Scotland, and they're high-rise buildings, so we suggest they've got quite a lot of people live in them. And let's even say it was just 100, which will be more than that. 100 times 100. 10,000 Scottish people, at minimum. And it'll be far more than that. Currently living in houses, in tower blocks, with unsafe cladding. And the Scottish Government's had £100 million to spend to fix them, and they've spent that money in other things, and they've fixed one building out of over 100 buildings. These people are incredibly inept and deserve to be flung out, because stories like this are not unique to this project. This has gone on and on and on for 17 years. And if you were to write the book of the history of SNP's failures in government, you'd probably end up with War and Peace-sized book and still not get them all in, because they are cranks. If you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up. If you've not already done so, please hit the subscribe and notification bell. Put some comments in the comments below. I always enjoy reading them and interacting with them. But most important of all, unless you're the SNP, they're ministers that just can't control budgets, or they're ever-decreasing cult members.
Everyone else, have a great day. Cheerio, bye now.